In the last few hours, the Israeli military has announced what it's calling a daily tactical pause in part of southern Gaza, but not the city of Rafah. It says the halt in operations will be during daylight hours to facilitate the delivery of aid. Aid organisations have repeatedly warned of a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Israel, meanwhile, has released the names of the 8 soldiers killed by an Hamas rocket in Rafah on Saturday, the deadliest incident for its troops in months. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation on Saturday following the deaths of the soldiers. Here's what he said.
With deep sorrow, in heavy mourning, I bow my head together with all the citizens of Israel and mourn the fall of our heroic warriors. Deputy Company Commander in the Engineering Battalion, Captain Wassem Mahmoud, and other heroic soldiers whose names have not yet been released. Don't let anyone distract you from the simple and clear fact. Despite the heavy and staggering cost, we must stick to the goals of the war, destroying the military and governmental capabilities of Hamas, returning all our hostages, making sure that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel, and returning our residents safely to their homes, both in the north and in the south.
Benjamin Netanyahu. Well, let's go live to Jerusalem and our news correspondent John Donison. John, I wondered if we could start with what we know about this tactical pause that the Israeli military's announced in the last few hours.
Well, to be honest, it's not really clear, because initially we had a statement from one branch of the IDF saying that indeed there was going to be a tactical military pause each day lasting from 8 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night around the Kerem Shalom crossing from Israel into Gaza, and then stretching over to the main coast road which runs north to south in Gaza. We've since then, though, had another statement from the IDF saying that it wanted to bring clarity that there is no cessation in hostilities in Rafah or in southern Gaza, and that the operation to get aid into Gaza is continuing as normal. That followed a statement from Israel's hardline National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who said that whoever made the decision to introduce a tactical pause was both evil and a fool.
How much aid is getting into Gaza at the moment?
Well, according to aid agencies and the United Nations, not enough. There is no aid crossing in from Rafah, from the Egyptian side of the border. We've got thousands of trucks backed up there waiting to bring aid in. Some is passing in every day through Kerem Shalom, but as I say, not enough according to aid agencies. The US-built pier off the coast of Gaza has been dismantled this week because of rough seas. So there just isn't enough aid getting in. The UN is saying that more than 1 million people in Gaza are facing starvation within a matter of weeks. Israel disputes that. They say there is no humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Meanwhile, the fighting continues, and we had the deaths of those 8 Israeli soldiers on Saturday.
Yep, 8 Israeli soldiers who've now been named. They were aged between 19 and 23, so pretty young. This was the heaviest loss of life for the Israelis since January. What apparently happened is they had been carrying out an operation against Palestinian militants in the early hours of Saturday morning. As they were retreating from Rafah, one of their armoured vehicles was hit with some sort of missile. There was a large explosion and they all died immediately. Hamas is saying it targeted that vehicle with some sort of anti-tank missile.
A week ago or so, we were talking about the possibility of a ceasefire, and we've had more comments from the Hamas leader based in Qatar today.
Yes, this is coming from Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas's political wing, who's in Doha, and he has said that the counter proposals, I guess, that Hamas put forward to that American plan, American-Israeli plan, were consistent with what the United States has been demanding. That is contradicted by really what the State Department is saying. They say were some of the amendments that Hamas had proposes were reasonable, others were just not consistent with the deal. And I don't think those talks are really going anywhere at the moment. Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, has now left the region, his 8th visit to the region. And there is a feeling, I think, on the ground that neither Hamas, particularly their leaders in Gaza, or the Israeli government led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, I don't really think either of them are pushing for a deal at the moment.
Yeah, interestingly, the Pentagon saying that the Israeli Defence Minister will soon visit Washington for talks with his US counterpart, because Washington still would like a ceasefire if they could get one, wouldn't they?
They do want one. I mean, frankly, the whole world wants one. The United Nations has pushed for it with that security resolution backing a ceasefire plan last week. There's no doubt that the Egyptians and the Qataris who are mediating want it, but it all counts for nothing really if the two main figures who are calling the shots, and that is Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas leader in Gaza, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, don't want one. Now, here in Israel, there are elements of his government on the far right who have said they will quit the government, forcing fresh elections and bringing Prime Minister Netanyahu's government down if he does a deal. So it's hard to see that happening. The Americans insist that this is an Israeli plan, that they have signed up to it, but Benjamin Netanyahu has certainly not said that publicly.
John Donaldson, live in Jerusalem. Thank you.